is my hope that we as Republicans come together, because if we don't, and if Donald Trump wins this nomination, I think the results for the next generation would be extraordinarily dire.
The votes are cast and the candidates are moving on to the next round of states. Good morning and thank you for joining us for State of Texas In Depth. I'm Josh Hinkle. Super Tuesday and the Texas primary have come and gone. Now as we head toward the general election, there's plenty of animosity and plenty of questions. Texas Senator Ted Cruz won at home and in a few other states, but he still trails Donald Trump in delegates. Trump's rhetoric about immigration and Muslims have won him support, but turned away Republican leaders. So for candidates like Cruz, the biggest talking point is simple. The party needs to consolidate behind one candidate to beat Trump.
For those who have supported other candidates, we welcome you on our team, standing united as one. That is the only way to beat Donald Trump.
As for Trump, he seems more focused on the November election.
I am a unifier. You know, I watched Hillary's speech and she's talking about wages have been poor and everything's doing badly, but we're going to make it. She's been there for so long. I mean, if she hasn't straightened it out by now, she's not going to straighten it out in the next 4 years. It's just going to become worse and worse.
On the Democratic side, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton easily took the state, getting almost 2/3 of the Texas vote. Still, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders ended up taking Travis County, getting a little more than 51% of the vote, even though he was behind in early voting tallies. In addition to the race for president, there were several races for the Texas Capitol. In a rematch to last year's special election in House District 17, incumbent John Cyrier held off Brent Goldman in the Republican primary to keep his seat. This district includes Bastrop and Caldwell counties. In the 24th Senate District race, covering much of the Hill Country as well as parts of Travis County, there was no clear winner. Current State Representative Susan King of Abilene received 27% of the vote, but Don Buckingham of Austin was not far behind with 25% of the vote. Both will face each other in a runoff election. The main question is who will supporters of other candidates like John Cobb of Bee Cave support? He took 20% on Tuesday. Coming up, our political roundtable takes a closer look at Super Tuesday, how Texas tackled it, and what's ahead for the presidential primary season. Next on State of Texas In Depth. Welcome back to State of Texas In Depth. The primary election has come and gone here in the Lone Star State, but the presidential race is far from over. Here with some insight, our political roundtable, Brandy Grissom with the Dallas Morning News, Alana Rocha with the Texas Tribune, and Mike Ward with the Houston Chronicle. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Did you have a good time on Tuesday?
It was entertaining. It was a long night, but yeah.
So you were actually in Houston. Kind of tell me about that experience.
Yeah, at the Redneck Country Club in Stafford, just southwest of Houston. It was the Cruz watch party. You know, a lot of very excited supporters to see him pull out the win. You know, they stopped short his campaign of being a must-win. They were pretty confident, though. They had the infrastructure here. They had really campaigned. And, you know, his campaign was still the base of it, or the roots of it were still here from when he ran for Senate just, 3 years back.
Mm-hmm. Mike, did you expect that he would get that high of a percentage?
I actually thought he might get a little bit higher percentage because this is home state for him. Mm-hmm. And he had a much better organization than Trump did, much different kind of organization, and better than Rubio. And I think he was looking for utmost momentum to move him past Texas.
It was interesting to see all the people that were behind him when he was giving his acceptance speech. I saw Donna Campbell and there was Brian Birdwell. What does that say when you kind of surround yourself with, obviously they're very, very, very conservative?
Right. Well, I think that here in Texas, Cruz sort of had a unique advantage in this race because he could not only come in as an outsider and sort of meet Trump on his own territory, but he also had the built-in support of all these politicos throughout Texas, very conservative Republicans whose support he garnered and who went out and spoke on his behalf multiple times, making sure that Texans knew that from their perspective, Cruz was the one who could beat Trump.
Mm-hmm. And did the other candidates, did they kind of shake out like you guys thought that they might?
I think so. I mean, as far as polling goes, you know, it seemed pretty much on par as far as, you know, Rubio and down the ticket. But, It was interesting, though, when you look at voter totals, Cruz and Clinton, speaking of the Democrats, won almost every county, but then there were about 6 counties in kind of the border region that Trump won. And the question is, were they actually supporting Trump, or were the large Hispanic vote down there split between Rubio and Cruz? So kind of got to look at the numbers closer.
And it was also interesting to me to see places there had been strong Tea Party support previously for Cruz when he won the Senate race, and to see how Trump picked up support in a lot of those really strong Tea Party areas of Texas, because it showed that there's trending there, at least in this election, for Trump.
Do you think, based on what happened with Cruz on Super Tuesday, that he will start seeing more endorsements from Texans? I interviewed Ken Paxton last week, and he still wouldn't say who he was supporting.
There aren't very many more politicians left to endorse him here in Texas. He's got the big ones with Governor Abbott, the former Governor Perry, and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. So I'm not sure what additional help more Texas endorsements would give him at this point in the race.
I'm glad you mentioned Perry, because I keep hearing things about maybe he might get back in somehow. How could that even happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a question if it's a contested convention, you know, that the delegates would be bound on the first round and then not on the second. But, you know, he told me after last Thursday's debate in Houston that if he was asked if Trump is in fact the nominee, would he support him? And he said yes. So maybe it was a little surprising and didn't go, you know, rogue and say, well, I might, you know, allude to a run for himself. But so, I mean, seems like will be committed to the nominee, whoever it is.
What would that be like to have Perry in the race again? Has anything like that even ever happened?
Sure.
You would know, right?
Well, yeah, in 1853. No, I mean, there's precedent for somebody coming in at the last minute and getting into the race before the convention or during the convention, and if it goes to some kind of brokered convention, then all bets are off, potentially. But I think moving forward here, I think what you saw last Tuesday nationally was a rupturing of the Republican Party. I think there's little splits, and you're going to see more fissures develop here as this thing moves forward through about the middle of March, when a lot of these other states vote.
If you had to guess right now, if Cruz does get the nomination, who would be a good running mate for him?
Oh, geez.
That's a really good question.
It's been such a contested race right now that I haven't even gotten that far in my thought process, but
Maybe someone outside of the candidates themselves?
I think probably so. Although, you know, you've got Carson kind of hanging around someplace. You've got some of the other candidates who have not so far pulled up the percentages to be a major contender. But I think probably with Trump, Cruz, and Rubio, the likelihood of them picking someone else outside of the current field is probably pretty high, if for no other reason than just geographic diversity, which helps win a presidential race.
He would probably also look to a woman, given that Hillary Clinton's likely to be the nominee on the other side. So, you know, maybe we could see Sarah Palin come back.
I don't know if he'd go there.
Speaking of controversial topics, I can't leave this roundtable until we talk about the Travis County Republican chair-elect. What happened there?
This is a Sunday morning show, right?
Well, I spoke on, yesterday actually, with the chairman of the state party, and he said, you know, it wasn't just Travis County that saw their local Republican Party chairman unseated. It happened in Harris County and in Dallas County as well. And in all three cases, what happened was that those folks who won the race were the first on the ballot. And so by the time voters got to that far down on the ballot, they had come out to vote for the presidential race. By that time, they either didn't know who the candidates were, or didn't vote, or picked whoever was first. And in this case, it happened to be a very colorful character in Travis County.
And if you can kind of censor yourself, Alana, what did he really say?
With regards to what? He said a lot. He's very...
That night, he was tweeting a lot of things that grabbed the initial attention of everyone.
Yeah, I mean, he uses a lot of profanity, and, you know, to be a representative of the Travis County Republicans, a lot, for instance, Vice Chair Matt Makoviak doesn't really, he's looking at ways to have him removed, and talking to some election law experts, they say he can only be removed if he resigns or commits a felony. So I don't know which route they'll try and navigate, but it doesn't seem like he will be going anywhere right now.
But it gives us something to talk about, right?
Absolutely.
Well, exactly. It's, I mean, presidential candidates have used profanity too, so, you know, no boundaries.
Thank you guys for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and coming up, what will it take for this Texan to win the White House? We look at the latest numbers and match him up against the top-tier candidates. Next on State of Texas In Depth. Welcome back to State of Texas In Depth. This morning, we're asking what's next for the top-tier candidates, and can this Texan go all the way to the White House? For Ted Cruz to win the presidency, things will have to go just right at this point, and it could be a tight race in the end. This is according to a new CNN poll that was out just yesterday. Think of it like a sports bracket with the top 5 candidates at play. You've got the Democrats up here and the Republicans down here. Now, if Cruz does get the GOP nomination and faces Bernie Sanders in the general election, the polls show he would lose by a wide margin. Sanders at 57, Cruz at 40%. But things could still be in his favor as Hillary Clinton is quickly rising toward the Democratic nomination. And if they face off in the general election, the poll shows that he would win, but just by 1 percentage point. Keep in mind, his biggest competition at this very moment is in his own party, Donald Trump. And the fight might not be over even if Cruz gets the nomination. Trump has not ruled out a major third-party run. It's rare, but it could shake up the field and make a real difference in the end. Suggested as possibilities for a third-party candidate lately, the last GOP nominee, Mitt Romney, former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and even our own former Governor Rick Perry, who dropped out of this presidential race months ago. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas In Depth. Remember, you can join us every Sunday morning in the 8:30 half hour for a broader look at Texas politics. Stay tuned for Meet the Press coming up at 9. I'm Josh Hinkle. Have a great day.